Story 1. Original post. Am I the a-hole here for telling my pregnant sister to lower her expectations for me as an uncle? My sister is pregnant with her first child and is very excited about it. I'm happy for her because she really wants to be a mom. I have never particularly liked kids. I always said I never wanted kids of my own even when I was young. Things changed somewhat and I have a stepson that I adore, but other than him I still do not like kids. For some reason, people around me interpret my relationship with my stepson as me having softened my dislike of children when I am very clear this is not the case. I am also very introverted and do not do much as far as being around people that is more than the bare minimum to keep those around me happy. I am much happier home, either alone or with my girlfriend and stepson just hanging out than with the rest of my family or with friends. My sister today was excited about her pregnancy, and I was indulging her to be nice. She started going off on all the fun things I can do as an uncle with her yet-to-be-born child, and at first I just let it go. I didn't play along or say no, I just let her talk. She wouldn't stop, and eventually it just got to be too much, and I told her she needed to cool it. She asked what I meant, and I said her, and I have a different view of my role as an uncle. She asked what I meant, and I said I would see her kid on birthdays, holidays, and family events, but I didn't see myself doing all the things she was naming off. She got very upset and said how could I say that about my soon-to-be first niece-nephew. I reminded her I am not the biggest fan of children and didn't see myself having a particularly close relationship with her child. She mentioned what a good dad I am to my stepson, and I said that's different. That's my son. I'm not her kid's father, and I don't have to be involved with her kid if I don't want to be. We also have another brother, and we both know he will be wanting to do as much with her kid as possible, so I said it's not like the kid needs me. My parents then got the hint her and I were in a disagreement and came over to see what was going on. Both my parents are on her side and think I should be a better uncle, and also should not have said something to upset my pregnant sister. So I have to ask, am I the a-hole here? Edit. I talked with my brother about it. He basically said, based off of everything I've said my entire life, he doesn't understand why my sister would have ever had these expectations to begin with. He's not on anyone's side. He said he gets why she wants more from me, but also thinks that she should have expected this. Update. My sister just called me. She spoke with both my brother and her husband last night after the fact, and they told her that there was nothing in our relationship the past 20+ years that should have led her to conclude my attitude towards her child being anything other than what I told her. She apologized if she made me feel like I was being pushed into a relationship with her child that I did not want. I apologized for the time and manner in which I said what I said, and that I could have handled it better. I also apologized for not being the kind of person she is hoping for as the uncle of her child. We both accepted each other's apologies, and we're good now. Now for the comments. Wait a minute. You have a family of your own. Does she spend time doing things with and for your stepson? This isn't how this works. You do for your kids. Your sister does for hers. I am one of 6. I can't even imagine how that would work, Lowell. She does things with my stepson every couple months. This year, she took him to a water park for his birthday and had him come over her house to ride jet skis and go fishing once. She probably did 1 or 2 other things with him as well that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. You're going to run into Reddit's "You're not obligated" mirror room. Don't forget you're an actual adult. Have you considered that people don't assume you softened your stance on children with your stepson, but actually assume you matured enough to understand that children are still people, and if they are in your family, deserve some semblance of effort? Raising and developing a child might be more appealing to OP than being the involved uncle. OP's plan of engagement does show effort for his niece-nephew. He doesn't plan on never interacting with the kid or acknowledging milestones. And he's communicating with his sister before she gives birth. It's not like he's blindsiding her. It really sucks to be expected to give up so much of your free time for a kid you had no part in creating. He understands children are people, and he's setting boundaries with his sister. I think you're the a-hole mostly because of your comments. You'd be mad at your sister if she stopped spending time with your stepson if you didn't have a similar relationship with your child. You say you'd be okay if she was busy, but she could simply be busy with the children whose parents have a reciprocal relationship with her. which I guess would fall under your not wanting her to punish your stepson for your actions. But relationships are two-way streets. She has a relationship with your stepson because of you. She put effort in because of you. She wouldn't be having a relationship with the stepson if you didn't know him. And most people faced with realizing they're in a one-sided relationship would back away from it. Busy or not, it's fully within their right to back away from unbalanced relationships. And it's not tit for tat for someone to do that. Someone realizing that they do X for the relationship and the other person is only willing to do 0.1 and deciding that relationship isn't worth the effort is not rotten. If anyone is rotten, is the person willing to only extend 10% effort while expecting others to continue to give 100%, even after realizing the disparity. Yeah, you're the a-hole. Your sister got carried away in the moment, but you counterpunched too hard. You ignored her efforts toward your son, and the possibility that you might change further, and even if not, reciprocity is the proper card to play. Not telling her shut the F up about envisioning a future relationship like the one she has with your son. Having a personality trait, I hate kids, doesn't justify being a taker, but not a giver. Not the a-hole, but your relationship with her will change. My brothers were indifferent when I had kids. They rarely remember my children exist. I mean, I almost died giving birth and was in the hospital for 2 weeks because it was that severe, and they did not care. They were 24 and 26, so old enough not to be that self-absorbed. The way they treat my children made me drop the rope on my relationship with them. I never speak to them. I used to call them all the time, and I realized I was more invested in a relationship with them than they were me. So I treat them the same way. They have kids now, and oh look, they want the good relationship I have with my in-laws' family. I have no desire at all. They are not bad people, but I am not willing to invest myself with them again. Your sister, her kid is literally a part of her. If you reject that kid, it's same as rejecting her. So think about the relationship you want with her, because she will never forgive you for any slights to her children. Women may not speak up, but we notice, and if you are indifferent or treat our children differently than other kids, we never forgive, never forget, and eventually, we will be cold and indifferent to you. Also, my brother-in-law is child-free and single by choice. He is the fun uncle, and my children adore him. I'm not super close to him, but my kids love him, and he invests his time in them. He will forever be welcomed in my house no matter what happens. My own brothers, they have each other. Completely agree. Our children are our heart. Generally, I feel closer to those who love my daughter and distance myself from those who aren't as nice. If you want to get into good books of a mother, compliment and bring gifts for her children. That will go much further than buying something for her. Update. The update with my sister was accurate, but my parents were not leaving it alone. They still wanted me to be involved with my sister and her kid more, and would not drop it. So I called a meeting with my family today. When I say my family, I mean my siblings, brother-in-law, and parents, not my girlfriend and stepson. Prior to this meeting, I had a discussion with my girlfriend last night, and she agreed it was okay for me to tell them the parts regarding her personally, and our son I am about to describe, even if she didn't agree with some of the reasons for it. I explained to them again my aversion to kids and not liking being around them. They of course questioned why I have a stepson then. I explained to them a whole bunch of background about meeting his mom, and later him, and how it came to be where I love him like my own, despite me not liking other kids, still that they had never heard before. They asked if the same could happen with my sister's child, and I said never say never, but it is very unlikely. I also explained to them that I am not a social person in general, and do not do things socially often. I told them about the fact that I even only see the people I consider my best friends 2 to 3 times a year, because that's all the energy I can muster to be social. I explained that being social and seeing people socially is like work to me, and it is mentally and emotionally exhausting, and I don't like doing it, but I do it from time to time because I know others want it from me. They didn't understand why someone can feel like social interaction is work, and that I should just grow up and be with people because it's unnatural to only want to spend time with my girlfriend and stepson, and otherwise be a hermit. I said their opinion is fine but does not change anything. I apologized that who I am upsets them, and that if it hurts them that I am this way. We then moved on to talk about our individual relationships. I told my parents I have not forgiven them for making me raise my brother and sister when I was just a kid myself, and that I almost certainly never will. I also told my sister I have an issue with her defending them for this. I understand they did their best, and that they were gone because they were trying to make ends meet. But if they couldn't afford kids without always working and not being present, they shouldn't have had kids. They all pointed out that would mean my siblings and I likely wouldn't be alive, and I said I understand that, but to it still stands in my opinion. There was a lot of fighting over this that I won't go into detail on. My brother didn't really say much during this, but my brother-in-law actually said when it came to my parents, he may not agree with not forgiving them, but he understands why I feel the way I do. I told my brother and brother-in-law that on a personal level, I have zero issues with either of them, and that if I had a normal social drive, perhaps we could have a closer relationship. I then reiterated that I am there for all of them if they ever needed me for something before I moved on to the thing that I really wanted to say to them. Some people pointed out me not being as involved with my sister's kid as she is with mine is not fair. So I thought about it, and those people may be right. So I told them all that we have two options moving forward. 1. We can have a limited relationship where they see me, my girlfriend, and stepson on birthdays, holidays, and special occasions. I will not do other hangouts and things with them or the future child. They will not do special things with me and my family. We see each other at these things and in emergencies only. I told them when my stepson is older and old enough to make his own decisions, if he wants a further relationship with them, I would not stop him from pursuing it and I would not poison the well. Or 2, we have no relationship at all moving forward and we completely remove each other from each other's lives. I told them that the decision as to which option they want is up to them and can be taken on an individual basis, and is of course open to future changes should all of us want them, and that they did not have to have an answer for me right away if they did not want to. Again, my parents and sister were upset. I gave them an ultimatum and said it was completely unfair. My brother and brother-in-law were both silent. I left and then got a call from my brother shortly thereafter. He said he accepts what I had to say even if he doesn't quite understand my antisocial behaviors and wants option 1 even if the others didn't. I told him I was happy he chose option 1 because if I got to choose any of them to interact with still, he would be my choice, and that we'd be in touch. Now for the comments. This is such an important family topic for a lot of us. I was more socially connected when my kids were little and I was married. But since my husband moved on to a friend after over 30 years of marriage, and my kids are married with lives of their own, I've become much less social in a lot of ways. COVID and permanently working from home made it easier to insulate myself from hurt. It's not healthy, I acknowledge that, but it's what makes me most comfortable. Some people will understand, like your brother, and take what you're able to offer, and others will disrespect your choice to live as you see fit. I'm proud of you for speaking your truth, and so glad you have your girlfriend and stepson to be your immediate family. I hope to have your courage someday, but for now, I do what I can and don't do what I can't. Thanks for sharing your story. I am so sorry you are going through this. I hope one day you are able to find a happy balance in your life. You made me feel less alone. Thank you for that. Please don't ever feel alone. I know this is so stupid and cliche, but someone somewhere cares. More than likely more than one someone. If you don't feel social, email your brother. It's oddly less work to shoot off an email than give a phone call or text. It might be a good way for you to still have a close bond, but not see each other regularly or feel the pressure to answer right away. Thank you. Given what I've said above, it probably will sound strange, but I actually enjoy texting with people. My friends and I text pretty much every day, even if I don't want to see them very often. It seems like a big part of why you don't like children is because you were forced to grow up too early to raise your siblings. It sucks your parents did that to you. Not the a-hole. Yep. Parentification is a form of abuse, just like general neglect. I think it is a reason why a lot of my current generation, millennials, could easily skip having kids. A lot of us grew up in a household where both parents worked, and as the eldest, we were expected to raise our siblings. Being an introvert just makes it even less appealing to have kids and spend more time with friends and family socializing them. I think for the first time since becoming adults, that I now understand my brother, who I think is similar to you. Thank you for explaining your situation and thought processes. If I at all helped you, are most welcome. Thank you for sharing. This is an eye-opening view of introverts and the internal work they go through to socialize. It does sound exhausting, and I have a better understanding and less judgment. How come there wasn't a third option for your family to continue to have a relationship with your stepson as they do now? I don't understand why anyone would punish your stepson for your preferences. Having a relationship with a child is a choice and comes from a place of kindness and care. You don't do it because you expect something in return, like you spending time with their kids so they're spending time with yours. If they pull back from him, wouldn't he notice and that hurt his feelings? This is a good and fair question. My stepson does not ask about them and does not see them often. They aren't huge parts of his life, even if they occasionally do things for him. There are 3 reasons for not having this option, though. 1, they never asked for it. Not once during the entire conversation did any of them bring up my stepson. They only talked about my sister's baby and how I should be part of its life. This was telling to me. I think them continuing their relationship with my son is mostly to get me involved with her child at this point, because 2, my sister and parents are notorious scorekeepers. I used to be as well, but have worked hard to break the habit, and still am working on it because I still catch myself doing it from time to time. I think if we kept allowing them to do things for my son, it is almost certain we'd eventually hear from them. We did it for you. It's time to reciprocate. 3. I hate to admit this, but the responses on my last post also influenced me. I may have argued with people about it, but deep down, I knew they were right. To let it be one-sided where my sister gave and I had no intention of doing the same was unfair. Story 2. Am I the a-hole here to leave my husband because of my stepdaughter? I'm 32, female, and met Jake, 41 male, 10 years ago at a New Year's End party. My coworker invited me, and Jake was friends with her husband. He was insanely handsome, so I made the first move. He was nice, but didn't seem all that interested. Later, I asked my coworker to set us up, but Jake said no because he thought I was too young for him. I didn't give up and ended up texting him directly, convincing him to go on a dinner date with me. He finally agreed, and we hit it off. He was super respectful, and we had a lot in common. A year later, we moved in together. After I graduated from university, he helped me get my first job, and we started traveling and even bought our own place. Being with Jake felt like a dream. He always put me first, made me feel special, was so thoughtful, and helped out a lot around the house. When I told him I was pregnant and said I'd terminate if he wasn't ready, he pulled out a ring he'd already bought and proposed on the spot. He said he wanted to be with me forever. Everything was amazing, until Jake got an email from his ex out of the blue. Turns out, he has a 12-year-old daughter he didn't know about. His ex never told him she was pregnant and moved away to be closer to her family. Now she's getting married, but her fiancé doesn't get along with Jake's daughter, so she wanted her to come live with us. Jake went to pick her up from the airport, and we ended up giving her the baby's room. The nursery I was decorating. I said it was fine. The baby could stay in our room for now. When I showed her the room, she looked at me and said, "Great. A crying baby soon, huh? Don't expect me to babysit, for your information." I just told her, "Don't worry, I wasn't planning to." She hates me. Anytime I try to talk to her, she either ignores me or tells me not to. So, I've stopped trying. Jake has been bending over backward to connect with her, taking her shopping or to games, but she doesn't want to hear anything about the baby. If she catches me showing Jake an ultrasound picture, she gets upset. Jake even asked me not to bring up baby stuff around her. If I try to join them on their outings, she gets mad again. Jake keeps telling me to be patient and that she's adjusting, but I'm starting to feel like an outsider. Jake is no longer affectionate to me. Maybe he is exhausted or doesn't want to upset her. Either way, I don't even get a hug or a simple kiss anymore. The baby's due soon, and honestly, I'm terrified. It feels like my baby won't even be allowed to cry because she might get upset. On Christmas, I got her AirPods, and when she opened them, she said nothing. At least she said thanks for the watch Jake gave her. Would I be the a-hole if I left Jake and stayed with my parents? I love him so much, and I get that he's in a tough spot, but I feel so unloved. I'm scared it's going to get worse once the baby is here. Added later. Someone DM'd me that maybe Jake knew about this kid all these years and was in touch with X and didn't tell you that's why he is confident it's his kid. I don't know. He seemed very surprised. I'm going to clear this up tonight. Now for the comments. Okay, I'm going, not the a-hole, if you sit down and talk to him. You all need to be in individual and family therapy. That's something that needs to be non-negotiable. That kiddo sounds like a brat, but she has very valid reason. It's a huge deal that her mom just dumped her on a parent she never knew, and that she also has a sibling coming with the parent she just met. Throw in the age she's at, and that's a recipe for so many issues. Your feelings are really valid, but you need to at least do certain things before divorce. Talk to Jake. Go to therapy, establish boundaries, and also what you need to have happen with this baby. You also are a prime candidate for postpartum depression because of this much stress, hun. Take care of yourself. Well, Jake mentions all the reasons you mentioned too, and asks me to be patient because his daughter is went through a lot and asks me for empathy. That's why I feel like an a-hole. You and Jake need to have a long talk with her mom and her fiancé to see why she didn't get along with the stepdad. Also, what was her relationship and life like with her mom? Inform Jake that giving in to her is not the way to develop a healthy relationship. Counseling is very needed, not the a-hole. This is just a terrible situation. Jake's daughter was literally just kicked out of her home and told to go live with strangers. So I feel for her, but that doesn't mean that Jake should be throwing you and your child under the bus either. A week at your folks might be the answer, to reset the situation. I'd approach it as a vacation or a break to let the new kid settle down. I'm assuming you've communicated how you are feeling. I'd also make sure that family counseling involved. Otherwise, it will just be worse. The other thing bothering me here is that no other family, from her mother's side, stood up for this girl. She was just kicked out to go live with strangers? Sounds like some court stuff got skipped or maybe was left out. I don't think you'd be the a-hole at all. You're pregnant, about to have a baby, and need support. If he is not going to be there for you, then you should go somewhere you'll get help and feel welcome. I feel like abandoning the love of my life when he needs me, but I just can't take it anymore. I lost control of my own house, my own life. You need to do what's right for this baby that's coming and what's right for you. If you're not going to be in a good place mentally or physically there with him and her, then you should leave. If you've tried talking to him about this whole thing and he's not understanding your position at all, then you need to show him how serious you are about it and your feelings. Your house? Who actually owns it? If it's yours, don't abandon it. Give written notice of eviction. If it's his, I'd leave. In both names? Have an attorney handle that along with custody arrangements, visitation, and child support.
Thank you for listening. If you like the video, consider like and subscribe. If you want more stories like these, turn on your notification to receive the latest stories.